Meh, 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 meh. Oh, hey, hey, yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome into a new review here from me, Reviewer Rob, man. Promised you 3 new reviews this week here on this YouTube channel. We already got one out there with Lilo and Stitch, the live action film, and here's two. I'm reviewing them in the order that I watched them. And number two here is going to be Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, the eighth film in the Mission Impossible franchise. Who would ever thunk it back in the mid 90s when the first film came out that all these years later there would be an eighth film in that franchise, man. But nonetheless, it is here, and I'm going to talk about that spoiler free, of course. And then the third review, Prom Queen, Prom Queen, Fear Street Prom Queen. Said that backwards, Yoda. That did. Anyways, we're going to talk about that later this week as well. So be on the lookout for that, man. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this. Here is the lovely poster from Mission Impossible the Final Reckoning. The film is rated PG-13 for bloody images, action, brief language, and sequences of strong violence. The film is 2 hours and 49 minutes. It's a doozy. It is a doozy of a length of a film. The film is classified as an action, adventure, mystery, thriller film. Our lives are the sum of our choices. Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. So that was a name change. If you remember, they did Dead Reckoning, the movie before this one came out. It was going to be Dead Reckoning Part 1 and then Part 2. And they just decided to go away from the Part 2 and call this Final Reckoning, which I like. I'm cool. I'm cool with that. Like, that's fine. And all that stuff. Like, obviously, it did lead up to that because going into this movie, I watched those other 7 films, man. I binge watched them, if you will, kind of sort of, put some days in there. I watched like 3 one day, 3 the other day. um, so there were 7 films. So I watched the first Mission Impossible one day, then the next day, the other 3, and then after that, the other 3, and all that stuff. So I was into it, man. I was into that whole marathon. Had a good time. Those films really changed. Nothing against one. One's good too. You know, um, okay, but 3 on just freaking blasters of a film, man. Blasters of an action franchise as they go on and on and on. And Tom takes more and more chances in his film and does that big freaking scene that he does in most of his movies and most of these Mission Impossible films and all that stuff. Like, this franchise stands out as the, to me, quintessential action franchise that's out there. Like, just the way that everything is put together, not just from an action standpoint and, the easy things you can do with an action movie with making it punchy and bomby and blow up and all that stuff. Like, putting actual compelling storyline in your film with drama, mystery, thriller, all that stuff. Like, that's what these films have been able to do throughout the run of the franchise. And of course, the budget's gotten bigger, the looks have gotten bigger, the action scenes have gotten bigger and all that stuff. But the storyline hasn't really lost itself. And the fact of what Tom Cruise's character Ethan is, what he does, and what he's all about, and how he's been treated with all the things that he does, and can you trust him? Can you not trust him? All this stuff. Is he a liability? Is he a menace? Is he a nuisance? Or is he the greatest thing that you could have on your side? And all this stuff, like that whole storyline going through this franchise and everything, and seeing how it all works out, and who's the villain this time, and how will Tom Cruise, Ethan be able to get out of this thing? Like, that franchise has been pretty freaking solid. Again, from 3 on, I feel like there isn't a missed beat with any of those movies. Like, they're all good. Tom Cruise's hair, we can talk about it later. But it's a great hairstyles, man. I was watching Part 2. I was like, maybe I need to cut my hair that's the way when it's time to cut my hair. Who knows? But the Final Reckoning, man, I was going into it pretty excited, pretty amped up. I saw this right after seeing Lilo and Stitch. I did a double feature in theaters. What a double feature! Both were action movies, oh man, and adventure films. So kind of works together, man. Which is kind of interesting as well, because Tom Cruise and Stitch went against each other originally when the animated film came out. Another Tom Cruise movie. I think it was Minority Reports. Could be wrong, but it was another Tom Cruise movie. So it was kind of hilarious that both those movies released on the same day once again. Or a Stitch movie released same. Anyways, let's talk about Final Reckoning, man. So going into this, we are obviously coming off of Dead Reckoning and how that filmed in, and we wanted to see how things would continue into this movie, because again, this is going to be a part 2, and then how they're going to be able to build off of that, how they're going to build off of any losses or damages from the last film as in storyline, not like budget or anything like that. Now they're going to be able to build that out into this movie and keep it compelling and interesting. And they do a really good job with that, man. Like, again, I mentioned it before, the storylines have been very solid in these films. They do a really good job of branching off, branching forward, moving forward from that last film into this one, and the carrying weight of what Ethan's carrying with him, and the bad person in the film that we're going after, and the what we have to get to and eventually go after in this movie, and all that stuff. Like, they do a really good job there. Um, there are two scenes in this film that are, they said thriller in there. And yes, absolutely thrilling scenes in here, which you come to expect with Tom Cruise films. Again, he's the quintessential action star as far as I'm concerned. Um, and just the efforts he puts into this movie, now dedicated he is into it, and the fact that he's going out there and taking these risks, when obviously in Hollywood a lot of people use stuntmen and all this stuff, which isn't bad, but it just adds that element of realness to these films, because he's actually out there doing these things and all that stuff, and we get to see some of these behind the scene features and everything. But there's two scenes in this film that really had me on edge when I was watching the film. um and I'm going to talk around myself, not to spoil anything, but there's one that involves water, and I'm a guy that when I was younger, like water, I almost drowned when I was younger, man. And since then, water's kind of freaked me out. Especially like big bodies of water and everything. And the thing he has to do in this scene, my God, just that whole time going through it and everything, like holy crap, you're on edge and all that stuff. You're like, oh, can he get through this? Can he get through that? What's going on here? And all that stuff. Like that scene was freaking insane. And then there's another scene which they have shown behind the scenes footage and all that stuff of involving airplanes and him again. This man loves to be on the outside of airplanes as opposed to inside of them. um, Different kind of planes, like regular flying planes instead of like big, but you know what I mean. Um, I don't know airplanes. I don't know how to describe them, but it's just the scenes he's doing there, and that whole scene leading on, and that battle between the airplanes. They're going and seeing what he has to do and what he's going through to get to his mission and all that stuff. Incredible, incredibly awesome. Just again on your edge seat, on the edge of your seat action is what you get with these movies. And again, he delivered it unbelievably well in this Final Reckoning, and great performances across the board as well. I mean, Haley Atwell, seeing her in the film, getting used to her. Simon Pegg's always awesome. Palm is great as well. Um, Probably forgetting somebody. I do these shows off the top of my head, man. That's why I'm not probably the greatest reviewer in the world, but I'm also not trying to be. It's just being myself and talking. That's what all this is about. So, um, performances across the board, great stories, great action stuff is great, man. Like I couldn't have asked for a better double feature to have two fantastic films back to back to watch in theaters with Stitch and this movie. That both of those films have done very well at the box office and made a ton of money. Biggest box office weekend on Memorial Day weekend of all time. A bunch of popcorn was sold, so the biggest amount of popcorn of all time has been sold as well, apparently, and all that stuff. And it's just, if you're looking for a good time, man, both of those movies, seeing them in theaters, they're gonna get it for you. Again, 2 hours 49 minutes seems like a chore, especially when you're like 30 minutes of trailers before then and all that. But it gets you hooked in very easily. Like, again, the story is compelling enough, and the mystery aspect of it, of what the mission is and how are we going to go forward with this mission. Very compelling, very interesting stuff. The action scenes, again, cool to see, cool to watch, and again, realize that these movies are different from other action films. This ain't no Fast and the Furious, man. Like that stuff ain't believable. This believable. This is insane. That's why these are the best of the best when it comes to action films and action franchises, because the work and time that Tom Cruise puts into it, and the dedication and effort and risk that he puts into it, are just incredible, man. It was a great time in theaters seeing this movie, and I highly suggest seeing it in theaters as well. So obviously, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning was fantastic in my opinion. And the big questions here: is there a mid or post credit scene? No, there is not. I don't think any of the films have had that, but there is not one for this one. It is called The Final Reckoning. It's not called The Final Mission, but it is called The Final Reckoning. It's been acted like, is this the final Mission Impossible movie or not? Tom Cruise continues to talk about how he wants to make films into his 80s. I think he even said in his hundreds at this point, which I can see him doing. I love Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is a fantastic actor. I'll gladly support whatever he does. So, movies. Is it the final one? Can't really talk too much on that about spoiler details, but maybe there could be, maybe there couldn't be. We'll leave it at that. Maybe maybe we'll leave it at that. But overall, very satisfied. It was a film that I was hype into going to see. Again, loved both of those movies, man. Had a good time. That's me, man. I can just enjoy a movie if I want to enjoy a movie, and that's where we're at, man. So that's my thoughts on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. If you saw it over the weekend, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Keep it civil as always, and thank you for hanging out, man. I appreciate you hitting that play, hanging out with me. I'm a goofball, as you can see, just having a good time nerding out about movies, man. So appreciate you coming over here to hang out with me again. Be on the lookout for Prom Queen. I keep messing up. Fear Street Prom Queen. I'll have that review out later this week. Into the Fog. We'll have a new episode out there for you on that show as well here on the YouTube, man. We're making content over here, baby. But appreciate you hanging out with me. I like to always remind you that you matter, man. Like, trust yourself, believe in yourself, be kind to yourself. Like, keep following those dreams, chase those dreams, believe in what you want to believe in, but mostly believe in yourself and trust yourself because you do truly matter, man. So thank you for hanging out with me. I will be back with more reviews on this here YouTube channel. Appreciate you as always. Like to remind you that happiness can be found even in the darkest of times, if one only remembers to turn on the light. Talk to you all next episode.